As a white belt, should I be giving other white belts or blue belts technique tips? Or should I leave that to the upper belts or my professor?
Both. Because there's like, depending on your academy too, or depending on the individual too, there's obviously everybody learns differently and at different rates, or different like, people learn faster than others basically, right? But I think too, like the way we set it up here, we only do, we do a sequence, right? Per week, whether it be 2 moves or 3 moves, and then we kind of stop. So if somebody's been here every day and they're a white belt, and they understand the 2-3 techniques, and, like the coach or the professor or whoever is like, kind of been like, yeah, you're doing them good. Like, why shouldn't they give, technique tips to somebody who missed a day or two and doesn't understand it? Even if they're right or wrong, they still learn together. Because the white belt may think that they're doing it correct, but it may be correct, but there may be a slight tweak that'll make it that much more efficient, And and for the most part, like the general idea of the technique could be right. So yeah, I think so, because you guys are both mentally walking through it, verbally walking through everything. So like you're doing more and more, teaching each other, showing each other. And then even if you are a little wrong, there's nothing wrong with being wrong. It's just that it could always be, if your professor sees or a higher belt says, hey, you might want to tweak it a little bit more to make it more efficient. Nothing wrong with that either. So when people say, oh, I can't give advice, I'm just a white belt. Well, if it's the same technique that you've been doing for that week, or you're very, very familiar, like armbar from close guard, just put it in the gray bin in the office, right here. All right. Yeah, I don't see why not. White belts are perfectly okay, but now, not that I wouldn't do, like white belt shouldn't correct a purple belt or something like that, because they're probably going to be wrong. But even then, you can learn something from anybody. So I wouldn't say no to that. If that answers your question.
So if it's with sequences, like at our gym, yes. But
if it's not a sequence, even then, if the white belt feels very confident that the way the professor taught it, or his professor or her professor taught it, and they feel confident that it's correct, then why not give advice to somebody who's in your class, a teammate? Because there may be a chance that like we said, it's either the technique could get tightened up, or it's a different variation of it. Because there's so many different variations of it. And I think the variations come from people's body types, like a closed armbar from a closed guard. Like it's always the same, but like somebody who may be a bigger guy or a skinnier guy or a smaller guy may have a little thing that looks different, that feels different, but works very efficient for his body type or something. So you never know. So that's why it's always best to keep an open mind, white belt or not. Like, because they may have seen something from a coach from a different area that's gone through gone through the growing pains of that technique, So don't be shy, but don't be arrogant about, I know, especially as a lower belt.
I think as a white belt who's giving the technique, like if they're confident in what they're talking about, then for sure. But don't be so confident, like where it gets into arrogance and you're unwilling to
get constructed. Like the feedback goes, it's like reciprocal. It's like you guys are together. Like you just say, oh yeah, you're right, but it could be better if you try this, or what you're doing is correct. It's just a different variation that I learned, and you guys just go back and forth, and that's what jiu-jitsu is really all about. That's why you'll hear like people say, oh, you can learn from anybody, white belt, blue belt, purple belt, doesn't matter, old man, red belt, whatever. Like there's always something like, and it could just be little tweaks that will help. It can take your finishing game from a close armbar, from close guard, from like 85% to 87. Something small, you may learn. just don't be closed-minded in jiu-jitsu, you know? Because there could be some white belts out there, man, that just come from a grappling background from like wrestling, collegiate wrestler that just, you know, like you taught me the L series in wrestling. I never knew that before, but I seen you do it to somebody, and I think you were still a white belt at the time. I seen you do it to somebody, you tried it on me and it got denied, but it was still a good technique, and then when you showed it to me, I started hitting it on you. And then, you know, that's a good series though. But that's the same thing I'm talking about. I learned from a white belt. You know what I'm saying? So just don't be so close-minded, but don't be so arrogant with your approach, you know?